Alright, here we go. This video is really intended to show you how to construct this hovercraft, Kelvin hovercraft. Right now I'm just going to go over the first page here. What you should have is the instruction booklet, and it has excellent pictures, diagrams, everything on how to build a hovercraft. So this may be, for some people, all you need. This video is extra. You'll need your design grid paper. That's the second thing. Also, it says you'll need a 9-volt battery, DC battery. We won't actually need a battery. And we'll be using, I want you to cross out the 1.57 volt DC motor. We're actually going to use 3 9-volt DC motors, the larger motors. So we're going to use the larger ones. So you should have 2 motors here. Put everything right here in my cup. We should have a 9-volt battery snap, and it looks something like that. We're actually not going to use the 9-volt. We're going to use the power pole to run our hovercraft. So there's a couple things we're not going to need, but there's your 9-volt battery snap. And you're going to have a switch, and this is optional. If you want to put a switch on your hovercraft to be able to turn it off and on, you can wire that, but you really don't need it because it's going to be hooked up to a power pole. So if you want to put the switch on, that's fine. You will also have an 1/8 inch by 12 inch dowel rod right there. You may use that, you may not. You'll have a craft stick, and if you want to use some extra ones, that's fine. We have those. So I have 4. Next, you'll have a couple pieces of wire that you'll need. You'll have a straw. I have a couple here. If you want to use different size straws, that's fine, but there's the red straws there. Then you'll actually have a 10 by 12 meat tray that you'll be using for the hovercraft's base. And you'll also have the styrofoam container. This is 5.5 by 5.5, the styrofoam container. Probably use half of that. And I would recommend using the half without the holes in the end here. You'll also have a 16-ounce styrofoam cup. And this flexible, 50 inches of this flexible isolation foam. If you want to use it as the base of your hovercraft, you can. I actually will probably not use that. The tools needed. You'll need a ruler. You'll need a pen or pencil. I actually like a fine Sharpie instead of a pen or pencil. It writes a little bit better on this styrofoam. You can have a circle compass. I like this with a pencil, or you can actually use the compass if you want. And they're in the drawer over there. You put a sharp pencil in there. And then a low temp hot glue gun. And a razor knife. And I like to use the knife just to get me started with the holes, but actually I like to cut out with scissors. It's a little bit better, I think. And then you'll need a soldering iron, and we'll get to that when we do the wires. And that should be the equipment that you're going to need and the tools. So you want to make sure you have all that. Okay, now what I recommend is that you open this up and read about the design challenge and the fans and how hovercraft works. Now, it's really important for these first steps here. We are doing option A. We're going to use an outside power source with the power pole. So we are going to shift the center point a 1/4 inch forward. This option is the preferred one. You have more time to operate the hovercraft because batteries are going to run out. So we have a power pole here. Now, we are not using the 5-inch and the 3-inch blade. We are actually going to take, and I'm not even going to give you this 5-inch blade. We're going to take that and throw that away. Okay, we don't need this. These are actually more powerful. So we're going to use the 2 3-inch blades. And so the first step, you can ruin your hovercraft because it says draw a 5-inch diameter circle. Well, we're not drawing a 5-inch one. We're drawing a 3-inch. A lot of students might say, well, how big's 5-inch? Well, you notice what I did first is just they did in the first diagram there. I found the center point. I moved it forward a 1/4 of an inch, and then I drew my 3-inch diameter. And if I put my blade on there, okay, it's going to be just about equal to that blade. Okay, and you notice right now I am on the top of the hovercraft. Okay, this is the bottom. Another thing I did, and it says in the directions, you may want to just sand down if you have any rough corners here. Okay, so I've done a couple steps already, but the most important thing is our center is going to be a 1/4 inch up, and we're only cutting a 3-inch diameter hole. A lot of people, there will be some people that won't follow this, and they will cut a 5-inch hole. Okay, so I'm going to go on, do a couple more steps. I'm going to cut out my hole, and I'm going to come back to the next step after this. So make sure you do this properly. Now you can see I cut my hole out, and instead of using the round dowel sticks that came with it, I just went on the scroll saw and cut a popsicle stick in half. I think that works better. It gives me a better surface. I'm going to line this up so when my propeller goes around the hole, it's in the center of the hole. Once I get it lined up, I'm going to take and simply mark it here, and then I'm going to remove it. I've already plugged in my hot glue gun, and I'm going to use a little bit of glue to glue these sticks right on here to the engine and right on here to the so I can mount my motor. And you notice these are on top. Once again, my hovercraft is down. This is on top because I do not want my propeller to hit the ground. I also mounted my propeller in there before I put it in, which is another good tip. Right, once your motor is mounted, this is really what it should look like, and you want to make sure that it spins freely in there and that it's securely mounted. Okay, very important. You don't want it hitting the styrofoam. So, and you notice we just have the 3 propeller motor hooked up. Okay, next I'm going to do I'm going to work on the cabin and the cabin motor. So I have the other motor here, and this is the styrofoam that you're going to use for the cabin. So I'm going to follow the steps here, and then I'm going to come back and show you what my cabin looks like. And I'll tell you if there's anything you have to watch out for in here. It's actually very easy to cut the 3-inch out of here, because if you use the one mark, once you mark your 3 inches, it's going to be right out to those ridges. And so it's really easy to find the center right here, of course, and then to find the center mark. And you notice I'm using scissors. Once I got it started, I think you just cut a much better circle. And I don't want to push hard on this styrofoam anyway with my utility knife. So I can just cut a circle out, and once I cut the circle out, I'm going to use some sandpaper or a file just to smooth that circle up. And so you should end up with something like that. Alright, what I did is I first cut out my cabin to give the airflow for the when I eventually put this on my cabin like that, we're going to have airflow coming up. Now you notice I did something a little different because I can't do it just like the directions. But basically they mounted their motor mount right on top. I decided I'm going to elevate my motor a little bit. Not sure if there's an advantage or disadvantage to that. Just something different. So I just built a couple mounts here out of the extra piece of styrofoam that they give you. If you want to do something like that, that's fine. Mounted my motor on there with my prongs so I could reach it, so I could still do my wiring. I did put my propeller on first because it's hard, and you want to make sure when you put this on that it lines up straight. Okay, very important. If it's crooked when it goes on your hovercraft, well, the hovercraft's going to go crooked. So make sure you get this straight, and that's about it. That was it for putting the cabin and the cabin motor on. Now we're going to make the steering system and also the propeller guard. So I'm not really sure how I'm going to mount my propeller guard up that high, but that's going to be the next step, and I'll come back to it after that. Okay, I'm going to give you a big tip here, guys. Before I go any further, okay, I would make sure that I hook some wires onto these motors, okay, and onto, let me grab it, my onto my 9-volt I would actually do the wiring next before I went on, so it's not covered up. Now we don't actually have to solder it yet, but the first thing you want to do is you're going to get the wires the length that you need. You can use wire strippers like this. It looks like this is about 18 gauge wire. Basically what you do is you just take this, put it into the second hole there, squeeze these pliers and pull it out, and that strips the wire so you can make a connection. So you're going to have to decide the length. Since I mounted mine a little bit higher, I might need a little bit more wire to go from this engine to this engine. But I'll do the wiring and then I'll explain it to you next. But it's a good thing to do this right now, at least to connect on the wires that you need. You might not be connecting everything, but let's get these connected. Okay, what I've done is my power pole is going to come to a power, just a battery clip. That battery clip, the one side will go to the engine, my lift engine. The next one will go to my propel engine, okay? Now, and then I'm going to connect my propel engine to my lift engine, and that's going to create a series. If you want to create a parallel circuit, you can too. The directions are in there. If you want to put a switch, I could have put a switch right here in this line. Very simple switch. Could have mounted it so I could shut my hovercraft off and on. I did not. I just connected those two wires. But now, if you notice, I will test my hovercraft, and there's a problem with it, because when I turn the power supply on, okay, my lift engine is pushing up, but actually my back engine here, okay, the wind's coming out, it's not pushing. So I have this circuit wrong. So what I'm going to do is just take this side and put it on that side of the engine, and it should correct the circuit, because it's flowing one way into this one and it's flowing another way here. I need to change that. Okay? So I'm going to do that right now, and let's see how that works. Okay, now what I did, instead of going up here, these were a little bit easier. I just switched these two. So if I turn my power pole on again and test it, this one here is pushing back, and this one's going the wrong way. I can change the polarity of both of them. Now you notice my hovercraft is actually hovering here. See it moving around, and the air is coming out here. So what I want to explain is, with the power pole, I can change the polarity. Okay, if we take a look, we can change the polarity with this switch right here. We can change both engines to go forward or backwards. But if one's going forward and one's going backwards, then you're going to have to switch the wiring here. So all I did was take the black wire, which was on the right, and I put it on the left. And then it synced both motors together. So make sure your hovercraft, your lift motor, is pushing down, and you'll see your tray float, and then the back one here. Now we know our wiring is good. Now I can begin to put it together, and I have my wiring, so it's going to be much easier to solder. Now that I have my wiring, I want to make sure, and this is really important, that that clip is turned and twisted the other way, because I'm going to take, if you notice, we have the large and the small clip. When I clip this on to actually run your hovercraft, you need the small end so it's sticking up front, the black end. This is the front of my hovercraft. Make sure you have the fan blowing out the back. And what I've done is I want to try to balance this as much as possible. So I've taken a dowel rod, just put under here, and I've tried to move my cabin forward or backwards to try to get it as balanced as possible, okay? Because I don't want it too much weight in the front or too much weight in the back. Now, if you followed the book exactly and you actually built the cabin the way they told you to, that's probably why they had you shift it up a little bit. And because, remember, the motor's hanging out back over. Well, mine's a little bit different design, so depending on your design, it really doesn't matter. What you want is you want it balanced. Okay? So once you get it balanced, then we can just simply take a hot glue gun, and we just want to take and just put a couple dots of glue just to secure that on there. We don't want to put the glue the whole way around. Remember, glue is weight. And if whatever glue you put here, make sure you put here, 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 because that will change the balance of your hovercraft as well. Right, my hovercraft is nearly finished. What I've done is created just a stable thing here for my cup. You can see I used a plastic cup. You can use the styrofoam cup if you like. And mounted, just put a little bracket under here just to keep that cup. The key is my blade has to turn, and if we come over here and I actually run the power pole, okay, turn that on, my hovercraft is going to lift and come towards me, so I know I have it hooked up right when I add some power to that. And nothing seems to be hitting, I don't hear anything, and that's critical also. Just when it's running nice and smooth. It's stable up here on top. I use styrofoam because it is light, and that's the key, and it seems pretty well balanced. Last thing, if you want to build a steering mechanism, this is very simple. I just took the white straw, and you can either use the dowel rod, okay, and attach that inside your cup, or if you want to take one of the red straws, it also goes in there, and we can attach that inside the cup somehow, however you figure out, and there's your steering mechanism there. If you want to put some pegs down inside that cup so you can decide which way you want to turn it, you know, that's an option there. So you can just take a piece of styrofoam and cut it out, or this is actually the top that I cut off my the styrofoam like sandwich bag, or the sandwich holder. So it's up to you. You know, you can make a steering device if you want. And then the last step would be the solder, and we'll pick that up next time. I'll show you that next time.